Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So on today's episode, I've got another 20 for 20 for you. That's right, 20 minutes, $20, building a deck in 20 minutes for $20 or less. Let's jump into it. And the commander that I'm going to be building around this time is Ziatora, the Incinerator, the Burninator, 6/6 Demon Dragon with flying that costs 6 mana in Jund. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, it deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target, and you create 3 treasure tokens. So we take our little friends that we have, well, maybe they're not so little, they could be absolutely massive friends, and we decide to chuck them at whatever we want to. Could be our opponent's faces, could be their creatures, their planeswalkers. Most likely their faces, though. Yeah, we're going to burninate their faces down to the ground. And while we do so, we get treasure, we get money, we're good to go. So we can buy more big friends that we then put out, that we then chuck at our opponents again. Winning in this deck is pretty straightforward. We are going to be chucking things at opponents' faces. Lovely. We can win with damage that way. Also, though, we've got many ways to manipulate power. So, yeah, we can also win with our evasive big dragon. I mean, at 6 power, okay, it is a 4-shot KO. But, hey, we've got ways to pump that power and make it into a 2, maybe even 1-shot KO in the right scenario. With all that said, let's jump into the tactics. Let's jump into these tactics and let's build this deck. And starting now. So on tactic number 1, we're going to be talking about what I'm calling power play. We're talking about creatures that might not have any power to start, but they have a power that's based on something. It's variable power. So what can we gain from that? Well, let's talk about some creatures that we can, well, have a lot of power with. Beanstalk Giant can be a ramp spell as well as just a big piece of power later. The more and more lands we're going to play, the bigger this becomes. Old Stick Fingers is basically our creature cards in our graveyard, which can be a good amount and actually can help fill our graveyard too with that. Necrogoyf as well. This is creature cards in all graveyards though, which can be absolutely huge. Keep in mind, it makes everyone discard a card, so if that's kind of too big of a detriment, I might end up cutting that, but we shall see at the very end. Sewer Nemesis is based on the graveyard of one player, so that's quite nice. And on top of that, whenever they cast a spell, they mill one as well. We've got Splinter Fright is also based on the number of creature cards in our graveyard. It can also help mill us more and more and more to help fill that. So if we have some more of these synergies, we're going to be keeping that. An Axe, I mean, this one can actually give us some extra creatures when our creatures die, which is nice. So let's include that one. It's power dependent upon the amount of red devotion that we have, though, so we might end up cutting that one depending upon. Darksteel Juggernaut, we're not going to focus too much on artifacts. That being said, threefold Thunderhulk can end up getting a good amount of power by sacrificing artifacts to get more and more power on it. Might not being a cut, though. The Swarm, though, it's going to, in a battlefield, X counters on it. Then we can draw a card if it's 5 or more, which is nice. Replace it. On top of that, we get to spread it out, essentially, when it dies. We get a bunch of 1/1s to replace it. Let's see what else. Oh, Sage Ancient Lore. Front side equals the number of cards in our hand as its power. Also, we draw a card. But when this flips, though, we have power doves equal to the number of cards in all players' hands. So that can very easily be like 20 plus power, again, that you're chucking at a player. That can be a ton. Rubble Hulk, absolutely. Again, based on the number of lands we control, which is going to be a lot. We are in green, a lot of land ramp, but we can also Blood Rush this to pump another creature. Again, this can be like a game-finishing play, you know, maybe pumping our commander, doubling its power, swinging and taking someone out, or again, pumping, you know, one of our creatures, chucking it at an opponent. That can be absolutely huge. Malamo, again, yeah, these are just going to be big threats in play, essentially, which is quite nice. But also on top of that, being able to, yeah, chuck them. That's absolutely lovely. Number of creatures we control. Yeah, we might have a decent amount at some point, but probably not enough because we're focusing more on going big versus going wide for the most part. Boneyard Worm, that's, I mean, a number of creature cards in our graveyard, but doesn't really add to our amount. Greatest mana value among creatures we control. That can be quite a good amount. Again, for just 4 mana. That's quite nice. Twice the number of creatures we control, though, with the Majestic Mirror Arc can definitely be a thing. Number of creature cards in your graveyard. Again, like, that doesn't really help. I mean, Scavenge does help us, though, so keep that in mind. Being able to utilize that after we get in our graveyard to actually make it, Yeah, that could be quite nice. Number of permanent cards in our graveyard, +1. Yeah, let's try that. Soul's Lost as well. I'm probably spending too much time in this category, but it's a good one as well. Zendikar Incarnate. Again, number of lands we control, that can be quite nice. Yeah, a lot of good picks already. Oh, Beast of Burden. There we go. Number of creatures in play. That counts our opponent's creatures as well, which can be absolutely huge. Number of cards in your graveyard. That can be a lot, so keep that in mind. Again, if there's upkeep, if there are upkeep downsides to a card, it doesn't really matter too much because we can just sacrifice the creature ahead of time, so keep that in mind. Well, what is elemental? Number of non-basic lands our opponents control, it can be absolutely massive. Again, the more opponents we have, the more it's going to be. Let's stop right there. We're running out of cut time right now. Let's go. Okay, next up, we're talking about plus power. Creatures that have that, plus X plus 0. It's based on another variable amount, slightly different than our previous tactic, but somewhat similar as well. Night Howler, again, number of creature cards in all graveyards. That is massive. We can also bestow that on another creature, which makes it so we can, chuck that creature with extra power. Then this comes back into play as a creature, essentially. If El Turil Survivors, if I could say that right. Trample and Myriad, that's lovely. It's attacking, gets plus X plus 0x the number of lands if any player controls. So, yeah, we can keep getting tokens of this that we can chuck as well. But also, I mean, it's got to survive combat. But, yeah, the number of lands if any player controls, players get more and more lands throughout the game that can hit even harder and also be chucked for even more. Hellkite Igniter, we're not planning on having too many artifacts, I wouldn't say. So let's ignore that one, even though it's quite nice if we could. Bushido X, let's not worry about that. Goblin control. X Grace Powerman creatures we control. Yes. So as long as this can survive combat, essentially, the Orcish Siege Master, again, it's going to get a lot of power, and then we can chuck it. Wild Beastmaster would be very nice if we had a lot of ways to just pump individual creatures. We got some ways to double and stuff like that, but it starts at once. That's unfortunate. Oh, goodness. Sacrifice Enchantment, we don't care about that too much. Destroy an artifact. That's a lot of mana to do so. There we go. Tuya Bearclaw, a great one. Whenever it attacks, gets plus X, no upturn, X the Grace power among the creatures we control. So again, more power equals this becomes even bigger equals we can chuck this very cheaply. Again, just 3 mana. Hey, Rebel Hulk's over there again. Congratulations. Grevin, this can actually help us out quite a bit when it comes to, again, when it attacks, you can sacrifice a creature drawing cards and losing life, and this can become quite massive as well. A little bit risky, but still, I mean, probably worth it for the most part. Choose every creature different powers using plus X or X to its power. We're not really worried about that too much. Token just battle from the control counter. Each other creature controls zombie. There's a lot of good effects out here. Again, we just want to make sure. I want to make sure I'm not spending too much time on these categories, but enough time for this muscle is amazing. Plus X for X amount of greatest amount of power and toughness. So again, ones that care about other power numbers can be absolutely amazing. Number of creatures you control, let's not worry about that. Robot Riders, absolutely. Power based on other creatures, essentially. Historic Spell, don't worry about that. We're running out of time again. It's already 14 minutes. Oh my goodness. Alpha Control, number of forest you control. We're not really focused too much on forest. Here we go. Nantuku Mentor. Okay, so basically 3 mana to double up a creature's power. That is absolutely huge for us. And we've got other ways to double as well, so we'll keep that in mind. So although it's not a big power creature itself, it can help our other creatures become absolutely massive. So yeah, we'll definitely keep that in mind. I'm probably running out of time. Let's cut this one right now. Okay, next up, cheap power. So we're talking about creatures that have a low CMC. So let's say 4 or less in power at 6 or greater. Now, these typically have a downside, but typically we can get around that or don't care about that because we're just going to be chucking them. Anyways, Traxos. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't untap. It enters battlefield tapped. We cast Historic Spells at untaps, which is nice, but we don't really care about that. It's 7 power for 4 mana. That's cheap. Even better, though, Dagmoth Titan. 11 power for 4 mana. That being said, when it attacks or blocks a sacrifice creature, we don't care about that because we're just going to be chucking it anyway. Speaking of which, Dagmoth Woe Eater. Being your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. We might not get to our upkeep with this again. We can just sacrifice this when it's in play and chuck it. Whenever you sacrifice it, though, each opponent discards that card. We draw a card and gain 2 life. So again, go to the end step, get all those extra benefits. That's fantastic. Force of Savagery, if we had a way to ensure that we had 1 toughness for that, that'd be nice, but we don't. Cosmic Larva, upkeep, sacrifice, let's sacrifice 2 lands. So again, if we can sacrifice this one right away, again, 3 mana for 7 damage, that's quite nice, and maybe even more again if we can double. There's only so many creatures in this category, actually. At the beginning of your end step, if it attacked or blocked this turn, its owner shovels into the library. Again, we don't have to attack or block with it, so we can just chuck it for 7. Vanishing 2, again, we can just chuck this one as well. We might take some of these out just because, sometimes we do want those creatures in play, actually, obviously, but other times, okay, that Deep Slumber Titan. Yeah, that's quite nice as well. Again, comes to play tap, doesn't untap unless it's dealt damage. But that being said, just 7 power for 4 mana, we can chuck it. In Stingerback Terror, this is dependent on our hand size, which might get low at some point. And again, you can plot it out and just get it out when you need to. And 7/7 Flying Trample, I mean, depending on your hand size, can be absolutely amazing. And of course, just chucking it when we need to can be absolutely awesome. Okay, next up, we've got checking notes. Powerful friends. That's what I'm calling this one. So, cards that have power dependent upon other things, or can gain power, or can give power. Let's talk about a couple ones. And we've seen some of these kind of pop up before in other ones, but like one like Kresh the Bloodbraided is huge. Whenever a creature dies, any creature dies, we get X counters on Kresh for X of the creature's power. So again, us sacrificing big creatures, our opponent's creatures dying, whatever it is, this gets bigger and bigger and bigger for just 5 mana, and then we just chuck this at players. Can be absolutely fantastic. Hero's Bane can be good, but also it costs a decent amount of mana to really get it large. Hamlet back Goliath, though, 7 mana. It's a 6/6. Whenever any creature in this battlefield, and anyone's control, X counters on this or X that creature's power, this can be absolutely massive in absolutely no time. We chuck it at someone, and they're going to be in trouble. We've already seen against some other ones. Baru's nice, but like that's a decent amount to work with. Oh, goodness gracious, counter on it. We've already seen some of these, actually. We got a little bit of crossover, which, again, is a good thing to say that, okay, we're covering a lot of these great things. Plus X attacking or power. We're not going to worry about that one necessarily. We might just save some time on this category, which is a okay thing as well. Costs X less cast for various amount of creatures. That's okay. I mean, this can be like a 5 mana 1/1, I guess. So let's include that one just in case. But yes, it looks like we've got most of these already, which is fantastic. We're covering a lot of our bases, and let's move on. Okay, next up, Powerful Friends. No, that was our last tactic. Double Trouble, there we go, wasting time. So we're going to be doubling up. Speaking of wasting time, I got to add my new list, which is okay. All right, so wasting time, here we go. Double Trouble, we're going to be doubling up power for certain things and hitting harder. Thrakus the Butcher, all right? Whenever it attacks, you double the power of each dragon we control until turn. That includes, of course, this. That includes, of course, other dragons in the deck. It includes our commander. So our commander's going to be hitting for 12. And if we have one other double effect, it's going to be game over for an opponent. Mr. Orfeo, I love it. Whenever we attack with anything, double target creature's power until end of turn. So essentially, yeah, take something, double it, hit harder, and also chuck that later with your commander. Grun the Lonely King. If you kick it, it's a 10/10. When it attacks alone, we double its power. So, in toughness, so it becomes a 20/20 to chuck at someone. I already talked about Majestic Myriarch, so let's keep that in mind. Targnar is all right. You can keep doubling it, but again, it costs a decent amount of mana to really get into that. Give your upkeep. Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, double of counters on it, that does like take some time to kind of build up. I think we're fine for the most part with where we're at right now with these. Actually, really quick, let's just add these in if we have them. Oh, goodness, I'm going off the rails a little bit. Torian Mauler, are you in? Are you in, Torian Mauler? We're going off the rails. I spelled that wrong. Oh, no. Oh, no, it is not. Okay, so Torian Mauler, if I spelled it right anyways, is not budget-friendly. Mana Gorger Hydra. Let's see. That's the other one that came to my mind right now. Mana Hydra. We got it. No, they are not underneath 50 cents, so not wasting any more time. So yeah, as you can see with like the deck building process though, I mean, you can have like a little bit of a plan ahead of time, like essentially, okay, this is what I'm gonna be looking for, but then a card comes to mind, you're like, oh, wait, that, oh, wait, that, oh, wait, that. And yeah, is this gonna be a perfect way to build a deck? No. I'm trying to do this in a, set amount of time. I think it's a fun way to do, so it's a nice little challenge. So here we go. Loxton Warhammer. Let's talk about Lifelink. Giving our commander Lifelink can be absolutely huge because, again, our commander is the one that's dealing that damage. It's sacrificing the creature. It's basically flinging that creature to an opponent, and it is dealing the damage. So if we have Lifelink on our commander, it is going to help us gain that life. So if we sacrifice a creature that's got 10 power, we're gaining 10 life. We're padding our life total, which can be absolutely huge. Eternal Thirst, I tend to stay away from auras for the most part, unless they're ones that like give you benefit when they're taken out or like you get back, because yeah, they just get taken out a bit too easily. It's a 2-for-1. Batterbone, that can be a Vigilance and Lifelink for our commander, which is quite nice. Let's talk about another one. I mean, again, Cartouche is another one, but that's another aura. Poet's Quill, that can be a great one as well. Grasping Shadows is interesting, but like we don't want to be forced to attack alone with our commander essentially to get that lifelink. Same thing with Homicidal Seclusion. Aspect of Lamprey does have like a nice, like your opponent's discarding cards when you cast it, and it gives our commander lifelink, but again, like it isn't a perpetual kind of lifelink. So we're going to be stopping there. We gain some life. Quite nice. Next up, another avenue for power is to, well, instead of just, utilizing it to swing in combat, utilize it to chuck at our opponent's faces with our commander, is to utilize it even for card draw. So, Disciple of Boss is a great one. ETB, sacrifice on a creature, gain X life, draw X cards, or X the creature's power. Again, we've got a lot of creatures that we can sacrifice, a lot of ones in play. And yeah, a lot of power. Just again, we have so many opportunities to build up a lot of power. And with that, again, we can utilize some of it to gain card advantage with something like this. Like, okay, I'm willing to sacrifice this one to draw more cards so I can then get more resources for more power. Garrick's Pack Leader, a great one. Another creature with power 3 or greater and is about for new control. You may draw a card. It's going to be nearly all of our creatures, essentially. Shadowheart, Dark Justicar, a repeatable way to sacrifice creatures and draw cards. That can be absolutely huge. There's got to be some other ones in here, of course, as well. I guess it just really depends on what you're looking for. But, like, the end step ones, like, hey, draw a card at your end step, those are okay, in my opinion. I'd rather get the big bursty draw up front. And it looks like some of the other ones are outside of budget at this point. Thinking about, like, Garrick's, or Wild Speaker, whatever the one that costs 5 instant speed pumps or also draws cards. So, let's stop right there. We got some other card draw to talk about, though. As I just mentioned, more card draw to be had, so we can talk about other ways to dig down, like Faithless Looting, some great looting effect, draw 2, discard 2, you can replay it as well. Thrill Possibility, a great one too. Low to the ground, instant speed, discard 1, draw 2, Sign in Blood, of course. 2 life for 2 cards. I would do that any day of the week. And we already talked about if we can get Lifelink on our commander, life doesn't really matter too much because we're just going to be gaining so much life that we actually can just pad our life to the point where we can just lose a lot as well. Read the Bones. Again, scry 2, draw 2, lose 2. Harmonize. Again, just a good solid draw spell as well. Cathartic Union. Magus the Wheel. Again, it depends on how you feel about wheels because it does take, it does give your opponent's card advantage as well. It does. But it also can mess with their plans a little bit, and also it can just refill you from 0 all the way up. Hunter's Insight can be insane because this, again, is one that's, like, not, like, power dependent, but it is kind of power dependent because if we hit an opponent for a certain amount, we are drawing that much with that creature. So, again, when they get through, they can be absolutely great. Painful Truce. If you're in a 3-color deck and you have black, Painful Truce is very good. Draw 3 for 3 mana. Very, very, very good. Seize the Spoils is nice, but sorcery speed, it might end up being a cut for me. Other ones that like sacrifice creatures, we don't want to sacrifice creatures really for just like 2 cards for the most part. Like, we're not like an aristocrat style deck really in that way. Abundance can be nice. To be honest, it usually ends up being a late cut for me usually, but it's like being able to like pick and choose like what you want to draw is quite nice when you can do so. Elder Brain is actually a really interesting one because it's like a weird amount of card advantage, but also it can be a power source for us as well. Again, 6 power is not thing to, bat an eye at. That's not a phrase. I don't know. Anyways, 7 mana for 6 power is not all that great compared to some other things, but it's still not, that bad. And again, when it can actually give us that value, that is quite nice. I think we're probably at a good spot right now. Yeah, let's cut it right there. We've got a good amount of card advantage. Okay, moving on. We've got some Wrath and Removal, of course. Chaos Warp is amazing. Feed the Swarm, I mean, that is good. I'd say for this color combination that we have other kinds of removal that is a bit better. Because we got plenty of ways to remove enchantments as well, and creatures too. Bedevil can be quite good as well. Return to Nature, very, very flexible. Rakdos Charm, incredibly flexible. Again, getting rid of a graveyard, that is an underrated thing. Also can be a finisher too, late game if, playing against a token army. And you're like, oh, okay, everyone takes 1 damage based on their creatures. Everyone's like, oh, ow. Cankerbloom, just a nice little body to have in play as well. Abrupt Decay. It is incredible that card is budget friendly. Now, again, less than 50 cents right now, which is really crazy. Butcher Malakir, we are sacrificing creatures, so when we're doing that, we are forcing our opponents to sacrifice creatures as well, which can be absolutely amazing. Decimate is great as well. Artisan of Kozilek, yeah, I mean, I guess Annihilator's not really, like, specific removal. I'm probably going to hold off on that one. Like, we already have a good amount of high mana value creatures. That being said, Terrastodon, being able to destroy 3 things right away can be great. Absolutely. Wild Magic Surge can be a little risky, but potentially worth it, depending on the scenario. We have a lot of removal, though, with this. Neverall's Disc is a great panic. Like, oh, no. Ram Through can be a great choice as well. Basically, again, we've got so many creatures with so much power. We say, hey, you've got a lot of power. Cool. Take out that creature and also probably take out an opponent. It's kind of like an additional like fling effect for us as well, going on top of the damage. It's like kind of like trampling over a creature. Decree of Pain is a very nice one when it comes to like drawing a lot of cards. Colony Ambush might be a cut though, but Colony Ambush is amazing in this deck. Again, we've got the biggest creatures most likely. We can utilize those to take out our opponent's things as well. Duplicate can actually again get power and toughness based on opponent's creatures. An opponent's creatures that we take out with it, so it could be a good amount. Casualty of War can take out a lot of things for us. Again, there's going to be cuts at the end of this episode, I promise. So at the end of the episode, I will have like the deck list scrolling. I've already made the cuts for that. In the deck list in the description below, there will be cuts. Here's the thing too. We can add in like some fling effects as well, like fling. Our commander is already kind of like removal for us too, because if we don't want to hit an opponent in the face with a creature, or we'd rather hit one of their creatures with it, we can take that out, or planeswalker. But yeah, additional fling effects can be good as well. Pest Infestation is an incredible removal spell, destroying a lot of artifacts and enchantments, making twice that many 1/1s that when they die, we gain 1 life. That is absolutely incredible. Inscription Abundance is very good with this deck as well, because it does have kicker, so we can get a lot of things out of it. 2 counters on target creature, then also gain X life, where X is the greatest amount of creatures they control. This game can pet our life total a ton, or it can be a fight spell as well. Again, our creatures are the biggest. I always run out of time on the ramp, so let's cut it right there. Okay, finally, when it does come to ramp, yeah, we're in green. We've got the best ramp. We also have a lot of high mana value things in this deck. There's some low mana value things too, like low mana value creatures that like gain power based on other things' power or gain throughout the game. That being said, yeah, it is quite nice to be able to ramp a lot, be able to cast our things again and again and again. Our commander does help as well with that like temporary ramp with like the treasures as well, but we're going to add in a lot of ramp in this deck. Cultivate, a great one. Mirror Landscape, a great land ramp. When it comes to like land ramp, I've said this before, I don't like count that towards like my actual, like some people are like, okay, I want 10 ramp on all my decks. And then they'll count like Blighted Woodland, Mirror Landscape in the ramp. And it's like, I don't count those because they're not as efficient or effective, essentially. They're very good, but like they're just like additional ramp, which is nice to have. Rampant Growth, Wayfarer's Bauble, of course. Harrow. Blighted Woodland's a great one as well. Springbloom Druid, basically a roiling regrowth on a body. Farhaven, so like that's the other thing. I guess I value Springbloom Druid a bit more than Farhaven, because you can fix your mana a bit better when you're sacrificing 1 land to go get 2, versus Farhaven, you're getting 1 additional. So that's where I'm going with that. Search for Mara, an amazing turn 1 play. Migration Path, Roiling Regrowth. Yeah, getting 2 lands, essentially. I mean, Roiling Regrowth is only getting up you 1, but still getting you up 1. Explosive Vegetation is great as well. If we had more ways to play with counters for it would be great. We already talked about Beanstalk Giant. Death Sprout, I think it's okay. Like, I know some people really love Death Sprout. I just kind of think it's okay. I'd rather have most of my ramp pretty low to the ground and getting exactly what I need. Oh, Grow from the Ashes, I absolutely love. When you kick it, you get 2 into play untapped. Jahir's Respite is an interesting one, like if you're willing to fog. Goodness gracious, I'm running out of time. Font of Fertility, great one. Vast Research, absolute power. Okay, and I think I just got that last one in there, hopefully. Regardless, an interesting build for sure. I absolutely love, Mr. Orfeo these days is one of my favorite kinds of decks, and I like, being able to say, okay, I've got another commander that I can build around that, like, is the fling itself. Like, Mr. Orfeo is the power doubling. The Ziatora is the fling. Both can focus on massive creatures. I absolutely love the concept of just taking these creatures, making them even bigger potentially, taking a small creature that gains power based off of others, and then getting massive, swinging, still like hitting with them, and then just chucking them at our opponent's faces, maybe even gaining a ton of life off of that as well, getting some treasures, and then doing it all over again. So there's a lot of exciting things that you can do with this one. I hope that you enjoyed this 20 for 20. Make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. And again, right after I'm done talking right here, the deck list, if I edit this correctly, future Mitch, please do so. It will scroll and you shall see what the actual deck list is after all the cuts, because I added in way too many cards as usual, but it's obviously better to do that than not added enough. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.